Where are the other two guys?
I think we're the only ones who were able to muster the courage and enthusiasm to show up for this one today.
Yep.
Mike, I'm not wearing a dunce cap.
No, that's right. You're not
Picking against the Nittany Lions.
Right.
I sure wish I was.
Yeah. But Goon and Kevin were all over, Penn State last week.
Sometimes it goes that way.
I guess.
Grab your pencil and your paper, folks. It's the obligatory PSU pregame show. All right, we're back. It's the obligatory PSU pregame show. Through rain or shine, through victory or defeat, it is homecoming week in Happy Valley. We're at Champs Downtown, as we are every week here on the show. A less pleasant week, I suspect, ahead of us here than usual, but it is what it is. We've been here before, and we're going to do our best to be your therapy to get you through it after the debacle in Ann Arbor last week. And I'm your fake host, Chris Buchanani. Just got two of the three quote-unquote regulars. I don't even know what to call Noble anymore, but
No.
all we got, all we need.
That's right.
I got beloved campus icon Mike the Mailman.
And this is a homecoming weekend. Can't wait for that. It's always a fun time. Good time for everyone to come back and enjoy Happy Valley.
This is your time to shine.
I love it.
They love you at homecoming.
Sure.
Former OnwardState.com managing editor Kevin Horn.
Never had a bad day.
That's
the attitude.
That's good.
I suppose it's the only attitude to take. You were out there, Kev.
Sure.
Unload.
Look, I mean, we have an opportunity to go 1-0 this week, and a new opportunity to go 1-0 this week, and that really is what matters. 4 quarters, championship standards, starts with I love you, ends with I love you.
Wow.
What more do you want?
We need to recruit bigger defensive linemen.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Try to find the guy who did this.
You've been here for You've been here for 9 years. You just got a 10-year contract extension. You get pantsed as the number 10 team in the country on the road in your first real test. And after the game, someone says, "What's the problem?" And your response is, "We got to recruit bigger defensive linemen."
Right. Which, of course, is our fault for not giving him enough NIL money. Not his. No, the biggest look.
It happens.
This has been the case.
Oh, wears me down a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It wears me down.
The worst thing about James Franklin to me is that he's made me apathetic. That's it. I felt almost nothing watching Penn State get his doors blown in because you really knew I picked Penn State to win. You knew in your heart it's a top 10 team on the road, top 5 team on the road. James Franklin's not up for that task ever, and so you knew we were going to lose that game. And by the time it was over, I was largely apathetic about it, and I was angry at myself for being apathetic about it. And if that's probably the biggest indictment to me on the program.
Yeah, the lack of preparation, the just getting your doors blown off, very disheartening and very frustrating. Not half as infuriating as how unsurprising the whole thing felt to me. It just felt like Groundhog Day.
I mean, to have one first down the whole first half is unbelievable. I've never heard of that.
11 plays.
Oh, yeah, 11 plays. I mean, the poor defense is on the field like 24 minutes the first half.
Not exactly covering themselves in glory while they were. But
they hung in
it was
there.
like the opposite of complimentary football.
Yeah.
Each unit, other than Barney Amore, who continues to do a good job punting the ball, pretty much everybody made the other side of the ball's job harder.
Yeah.
Every guy made it tougher for his teammates with the game we played against Michigan.
I watched every Michigan game this year, just about, at least parts of it. And what's kind of sad to think about in hindsight is, look, throw away their non-conference, it was terrible, but they played Indiana and Maryland. And both Indiana and Maryland, Indiana is terrible, Maryland's okay. They just lost to Purdue. Played Michigan 5 times harder than Penn State did, right? one middling Big Ten team and one absolutely terrible Big Ten team, played Michigan for 4 quarters harder than Penn State did, which was a top 10 team on paper. That's remarkable.
How does that happen? I mean, how does that happen? I mean, Penn State obviously has more talent than those 2 teams you just mentioned, but I don't know how that could happen. Don't know.
Well, there's only one variable for all of these top 5, top 10 losses over the last 9 years. Mike, there's only one variable that's not changed.
Yeah.
There's only one X side mean variable, and
it's the lack of competitiveness that gets to me. Beating top 10 teams is hard. Beating top 10 teams on the road is hard. Beating Ohio State is hard. That 0-10 versus top 10 team stat that people have been throwing in James's face this past week, I don't know what to make of that, really. I would like to see some context. How are other programs, how are other coaches stacking up against that? And a lot of those losses are against Ohio State. And as we have covered on this program for years, since Penn State joined the conference for football play in 1993, not a single team in the Big Ten has gotten to double-digit wins against Ohio State in that time.
Sure, and that is true. I mean,
it's 28 years.
What program is above 500 against top 10 teams? But to not even pick up one.
and to not even look like you belong on the field, to not even look like you're playing the same sport, that, to me, is what was just so agitating. It's the fact that we got our doors blown off in Ann Arbor again, and the fact that I kind of expected it.
You did.
See, but I mean, I guess
that's the part that drives me nuts.
Yep. Subconsciously, maybe I expected it, but I really didn't, because I mean, everything we thought about this defense was false, right? Like everything we thought we knew about this defense for the first 5 games, other than Joey Porter Jr. being basically shut down. Abdul Carter did some okay things. Chop Robinson did some okay things. Other than that, I mean, there was some absolutely like Tyler Elston, man, whew. But like, absolutely dreadful play in the defense. It was one of the best defenses in the country for the first 5 games. It made absolutely no sense. I mean, Michigan was getting to the second level every single play. It did not matter. I mean, Michigan didn't punt, right? Michigan did not punt one time. Yep. And without, I mean, the score should have been much worse. It's remarkable. Penn State led in the third quarter. I mean, that's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know quite how that happened, given the team we saw the first 5 games. You knew the offense was going to be what the offense was, right? I don't think you expected the offensive line to get blown off the ball like you did on Saturday. But
let's talk about the offense a little bit more. The game plan, year 2 of Mike Yursich. How are you feeling about this experiment? This week, we're going to see the guy we canned after 1 season. To hire this guy and pay him a lot of money.
I'm sure he's not motivated at all.
Right. I already said after year 1, year 1 of Mike Yursich was an unqualified failure. There's no other way to talk about it. Penn State had a historically bad rushing attack, and the offense overall was poor. You come out in a situation like this and just lay a total egg, Mike. I don't know. I mean, you pull the trigger on Kirk Ciarrocca after 1 bad season that's fake and has a global pandemic. I don't know. Maybe the coaches, not all the coaches got along. I don't care if they get along. Win the games.
That's right.
Yeah.
The third and short play calling. I mean,
Mike Dick and Buddy Ryan hated each other. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't care if people didn't like to hang out with Kirk Ciarrocca at cocktail parties.
Look, someone tweets something.
Score some points.
Someone tweets something. James Franklin has 5 followers. He gets upset, so it just doesn't matter. But I mean, the third and short play is when Penn State can't run the ball, which it could not at all. Right? Nick Singleton looked terrible. Katron looked slightly less terrible. Not good. Third and short play calling was abysmal. I mean, he's throwing Oklahoma State offenses at Sean Clifford and Parker Washington. It's not the same, and we have a right to be concerned, I think, going forward there.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Solo cup in my right hand, pigskin in my left, and it just feels so right, man. College football's back. Yeah, we waking up on Saturday morning. I'm talking.
Welcome back. The obligatory PSU pregame show coming to you from Champs Downtown, one of the greatest college bars in all of America, here in the heart of Happy Valley. I am a combination of despondent and pretty happy, Mike, because even on your worst day, life is a little happier in Happy Valley, and it's homecoming weekend and week. And I love Penn State, and I love this place, and I love my Nittany Lions, even when they break my heart like they did last week. So I am so mad about everything we talked about in the last segment. And I'm still, I'm here.
It's only a game, guys. It's only a game. We'll move on from this. I mean, life still goes on. And
Do you know what makes me so damn mad?
It is.
I used to get really angry when he would say stuff like that. I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "No, he's right. It's only, I can't let this stuff. I have signed up. I have bought the ticket. I'm taking the ride. I'm gonna sit through many more of these unless somebody has $72 million laying around.
Kevin goes to the away games. Kevin still goes to the away games, which is great. It's great that you do that, Kevin.
Yeah, right. And while I was on my away game, Mike, I'm watching Tennessee, who was previously terrible and
for a long time
and cheated and fired their coach, and is now beating Alabama and in the driver's seat of the SEC in the national championship conversation. Right? It can happen. You just have to do something.
Yeah.
Get rid of frauds. Get rid of guys that don't have it. Yeah. Not signing the 10-year deals on your way out the door.
Yeah, there are two things that have pretty much gotten to the point of total exhaustion for me, and they are the two things everyone is going to talk about this week and for the rest of the season. That's quarterback controversy and Drew Allar versus Sean Clifford and James Franklin, and is he the guy? And I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I don't know what I think anymore. I have been on the record many times over as saying that I like him and I want him here. I'm not ready to go back on that for sure. I have seen so many times the cautionary tale of what happens if like the story of the dog with the bone in its mouth looks over the bridge and sees its reflection in the water and goes for the second bone and loses the one it had. I don't want to end up like Nebraska, and I'm not sure I would sign up for 15 years of abject misery like Tennessee went through to get to the moment we saw at Rocky Top last week. But I do also feel like it is fair to live your life under the assumption, like I am right now, that games like last weekend's are going to become the norm. Like that is the ceiling for the program, I feel like, unless all the stars come into alignment. And that's already happened once during his tenure.
Yeah, well,
in 2016.
I was just
and that ended with a loss in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
I was jealous of Michigan, right? I'm walking around their beautiful campus in their beautiful town with their maize out, walking around. Like they went through the same thing, right? They
did.
That's right.
They were the winningest program in college football. They went through a bad decade or so. They hired a Letterman to come back and coach the team. He was bad. He begged for his job, took a pay cut, and got him back. Some say fluky, some say not. Clearly not fluky now. Got him to the playoffs in a year, right after being terrible.
Yeah.
And again, undefeated again this year. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State, but again,
I don't either.
No.
But again, 11-1 at worst for Michigan this year, right? Which they managed to do by sticking with a guy who knows how to coach a football team and knows how to build a program, and even though he's nuts and crazy and almost left them for the NFL and et cetera, they got that, right? They got back to where they want to be and where they were, and I'm jealous of that.
Well, we have Goon and Brandon. They're alumni, right? They could be our answer. No. Okay. Just a thought. No.
I've heard that. I'm not a big, despite being as strident a Penn State partisan as you're going to find, I'm not a big fan necessarily of bring the favored son home.
No.
For two reasons, because a lot of times I don't think it matters. I really don't.
Yeah.
Joe Paterno and Bill O'Brien went to Brown. Jay said it right. Like, just having a degree doesn't make you a Penn Stater, and you don't have to have a degree to become a Penn Stater. And, it also gets very ugly when it goes bad, as it almost did at Michigan. And that's the funny thing. If you look at the program who just trounced us as an example, you can view it through either lens you want. You can say, oh, well, look, they went through all the different iterations and they finally made the move. Or you can say they stayed the course and they doubled down on consistency, because everyone prior to last season thought the Jim Harbaugh experiment was a total disaster.
Yeah, well, it is cool when it works out, right? I agree with all of that as far as I'm not. I think being a Letterman and coaching a team is 1 point in a whole menu of points. But yeah, not fun.
Nope.
Not fun. And you had the analogy, Chris, like the Chappaquiddick movie when Kennedy says, "Well, Dad, I'm never going to be president now." Well, again, how many times do you have to see the same show in Michigan to know that we're never gonna be the elite program that we talked about 5 years ago after that Ohio State win.
There's still time. There's still time. We'll get there. We'll get there eventually.
If you want to make an argument other than consistency and please don't talk to me about Vanderbilt. That was a decade ago. But if you want to make an argument in James's favor, which I guess I will because no one else is right now. Let me tell you, you can point to the talent he's brought in the last 2 years and say, look, again, first of all, this is all academic. It's all academic. The conditions of James Franklin's contract make it functionally impossible for Penn State to fire him. It's not financially viable. So all you message board folks, I don't know what to tell you. But I think it is fair to say, based on, 11-win seasons, Big Ten title. I love the caliber of player he's bringing to the program as people. Mm-hmm. He's got at least 50% of the grand experiment down pat, in my opinion. But I would say it's fair to say he's earned the right to get to coach guys like Drew Aller and Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and all these offensive linemen in the 2023 class and show that he can do what I think we all now assume he can, which is make Ted Kennedy president, right? Right? Like we all that was the feeling. They're like, not only are we not going to win this Michigan game, this specific game, we're not going to win this figurative game again for a long time. So just settle in and enjoy your 9 wins and don't be Oliver Twist asking for some more.
Look, preseason, I think we all picked other than 7 or 8 wins, and this team is in the driver's seat for 10-2. Which is crazy. I mean, they're going to be favored in every game the rest of the season except for Ohio State. Fortunately, because Penn State put an easier schedule and we thought the Big Ten's pretty down this year, and we avoid Illinois on the west side of the schedule, who would beat Penn State by 3 touchdowns. But, so I mean, this is looking like 9-3 at worst, 10-2. I think we all sign up for that before the season.
Yep, you're right.
Boys, I hate how this show is better after we lose. Sorry, everybody. We'll be right back.
I just want to hear the fight song, and you can check your phone. I ain't worried about that.
My name's Ty Howle. Played center at Penn State from 2009 to 2013. So I'm now the tight ends coach at Penn State. So I think one of the toughest moments in my career was in 2012. I was a junior. Going into the summer, just had a really, really great spring ball. And in June, I had a pec tear, complete tear. It was kind of like my first opportunity to see a ton of meaningful playing time. And, I was kind of in that position where, to take a job and play a lot of football at Penn State. And you see that opportunity and the light starts clicking and everything's kind of going the way you want it. And then to have that happen to you, an injury at the time when I first did it, hey, you're going to be out the whole season, and that was back before, the redshirt rule with 4 games like they have now, back before medical things were so common where you could get extra year, and I just thought I was going to lose a year of football. That was probably one of the toughest times in my career, and ended up being one of the best years of my career, with 2012. So. The final games of the 2012 and 2013 series, the wins over Wisconsin, obviously the 2012 win was unbelievable over time. And 2013, that was obviously my last game of football I ever played. We came in as 24-point underdogs and ended up winning the game, and it was a huge celebration in the locker room. That was our bowl game, and so that was a really, really cool moment, because I was realistic. I knew kind of that was going to be it for a 6-foot center, When I finished playing, I played in the 13th season for Coach O'Brien. When I got done, I was actually a graduate assistant for Coach Franklin for about 4 months as a recruiting GA. After about 4 months, I was offered the offensive line GA position at NC State University. Went there for 2 years. There I worked with some amazing coaches. Then after those 2 years, I spent 4 years at Western Illinois University. I went out there with a guy named Charlie Fisher, who was the quarterbacks coach at Penn State when I played. And so he wanted to kind of run what we had ran at Penn State asked me to come out there and be their O-line coach. So I did that for 2 years, and I was the co-offensive coordinator and assistant head coach for 2 years. And then I actually came back to Penn State as an offensive analyst and did that for a year with our O-line and tight ends, and then was promoted to the tight ends coach. I think one of the biggest things that's different is the level of support we're able to offer our student athletes. You know, like a lot of Letterman when we were there, we weren't given snacks and all this food. And I mean, now our nutrition is unbelievable. Our academic support's unbelievable. Our player personnel department that helps guys kind of, start college and learn how to acclimate. You know, it was kind of like when we were dropped off, like, hey, here you go, figure it out. You know, and so we're able to give the guys a lot of resources from that aspect. The thing that I love that hasn't changed at Penn State is we're still recruiting the same quality student athlete where, they are disciplined and take academic matters very seriously, take football very seriously, and hard workers. And so that hasn't changed, which I love about Penn State. And so obviously there has been other changes and things, but I think those are the two things that kind of stick out to me.
Solo cup in my right hand, pigskin in my left, and it just feels so right, man. College football's back. Yeah, we waking up, taking a shot up at the tailgate lot with a stadium view. What a great spot, damn it.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are now going to share some highlights from this week's Blue and White Players Show for you. We do that from Champs Downtown as well. They're coming up. Enjoy them.
I want to ask you though, Cody, because we spent a lot of time together doing some of the same things with the D squad, some of the scout team stuff, specials. What has that experience been like this whole time? And then obviously going home, coming back, is there a different level of appreciation you have for playing football, even though what you're doing may be considered kind of tumultuous in some ways?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, being on D squad for 4 years straight, it's definitely not what you want. Yeah, it's not what you want. You want to get as much playing time as you can, but after during my freshman year, I just struggled with not getting that playing time, and it messed with my mental health a great deal. So that's what kind of fed into me going home for the next year. But coming back, I just kind of learned to appreciate my role on the team and just trying to benefit the team, any way that I could. And then when my top opportunity comes, make something happen on the field.
Now, I'll tell you, just being on the team and knowing how people feel about you, even on the D squad, you have found ways to demand respect from the people in the locker room. The coaches, the staff, the players, they all respect you. What do you think has contributed to that?
I think just coming to work every day against the starting lineups, the starting offense, we're playing against them every day, and we're trying to make those guys better and make sure they're ready to come out on Saturdays. And I think coaches start to see that, coaches and the offensive players, the starting offensive lineup, they start to see that, and good things come out of that. I've seen time on special teams and some time on defense.
It's reward. It's an absolute reward.
Yep.
So that's this thing is that people don't understand is you do understand. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that, but walk-on versus a future first-round NFL pick, you're treated no different. You're getting your ass beat in that weight room in Haluba Hall 5-6 days a week in the offseason. It doesn't matter who the hell you are. You're getting your ass beat. You are getting worked. You're working out. You're working just as hard as a future first-round NFL pick. And that's where it sets you guys apart is that first-round pick in his mind is I'm doing this for a reason. I'm going to go to the next level and this and that.
You've had the experience now of playing through several whiteouts. It is an awesome experience, and you've also gotten to go, play in some of the other good environments around college football. You got to see the Maze out last week. Unfortunately, you got to go down to Auburn this year. Just talk us through the experience of coming out of the tunnel for a whiteout and just playing in that environment.
It's really unbelievable. Coming out of the tunnel, you can sometimes just feel the ground shaking from how loud it is.
That's cool.
And just kind of just running out with the fireworks going on, everyone chanting. It's really just a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't think there's anything that I'll ever experience again in my life that's like this.
I have two people coming in here, one from Oklahoma City and one from Jacksonville, Florida. I've just met them in my past and this and that. And they both have been like, I want to experience a whiteout.
Yeah, it's become
And I said, vote. I said, let's do it. It's become a national bucket list thing.
Yeah, it's
not just an Ann Arbor maze out, not just a stripe out of the Iowa. I think the whiteout at Penn State is the one that people want to go to.
The one.
That's the one that people were like, oh my God. And I don't care who we're playing.
Like, I clearly, you're coming out of the tunnel and it's right there. But then once the game starts, do you still remember that environment?
Me personally, I don't know if you had any experience, but I definitely still notice it the entire game. Because whenever the other team comes out, it's loud, the ground
It's different.
It's unreal.
Yeah, well, now you're getting me keyed up for it.
You did bring up a good point earlier. You brought up some of these first round guys, having a why playing college football and having something to push for every day. What has your why been for the last 4 years, 5 years?
Just to, really just make my family proud, I think is the main thing. Like I said, no one in my family has ever really played a big time sport.
Yeah.
My dad didn't go to college. My dad did 2 years of community college. My mom didn't go to school. So I think just being able to make it here and play, for the Nittany Lions, I think it's just it's made them really happy, and it's they've been able to come up to a big state college, which
they got to be
haven't
so
been
proud,
able to do. Yeah. And
Solo cup in my right hand, pigskin in my left, and it just feels so right, man. College football's back. Yeah, we waking up.
Tim and Steve here from the Let's Talk Penn State podcast with a few fun facts about Minnesota. Cue the fight song.
We'll start with alumni from Minnesota, Bob Dylan, Peter Graves from the Airplane films, Peter McNichol, who played Janosch in Ghostbusters.
Fun fact about the Gopher State. Do you know why they're called the Gophers? Well, back in 1857, there was a political cartoon about a railroad scandal. The railroad barons were depicted as gophers. That's it.
Don't you know? Our Citizens Bank game day button this week is Gopher Broke. It's a pretty good one. Some of our past favorites, Ghostbusters, and we prefer Punxsutawney Phil.
Great choices. Hey, this will be the third Big Ten team, not named Ohio State or Michigan, to get the all-stadium whiteout. The other two, Iowa and Illinois.
Who knew? And how about that fight song, Minnesota Rouser? I think it's fun. It's got some pep, some energy.
Perfectly fine. Go State. Beat Gophers.
Welcome back, everybody, to the obligatory PSU pregame show from Champs Downtown, the heart of State College here on South Allen Street. I'm your fake host, Chris Buchanani, joined today by campus legend Mike the Mailman, Kevin Horn. No Goon or Noble. I think Goon didn't want to show his face after talking so much smack on Michigan last week. I don't know. But let's just flush it. Let's just bury the tape, burn it.
Got to move on, right?
Burn the boats, which is appropriate for this week because we've got, arguably the biggest fraud coach of the Big Ten, PJ Flett, coming and rowing his boat into Happy Valley for the whiteout.
It's a real big fraud coach game.
You said it. You said it, not me.
That's right.
Minnesota Golden Gophers. Kevin, what do you got?
Well, I was not worried, right? Minnesota's trending down where they lost to Purdue, then they lost to Illinois. Both those teams actually are probably better than Penn State.
Illinois is legitimately good and very tough in the trenches. Right. So it's like unstoppable force, immovable object when you put them up against Minnesota. But they look like trash versus Purdue.
What I don't like is that Muhammad Ibrahim may be a better back than Blake Corum, and we just put that game on tape, right? So if this is a defense... If this is a defense that can't stop the run, which it couldn't, and you have a back as good or better than the back you just played, well, my little measly non-X's and O's football brain's like, how is this going to work out? Now, the Minnesota defense is not nearly as good as Michigan's, I don't think.
Correct. So, there's no doubt about it. Although, as you mentioned, and I do think it's a factor in the game, that game's on tape, and we have an offensive coordinator who has all the motivation in the world to cram it right up our you-know-what.
And what we don't know at the recording of this is what Tanner Morgan's status is. That's the Minnesota's quarterback.
This was supposed to be the battle of geriatric quarterbacks. We might not see either one of them. Who knows?
That's right. Minnesota's backup does not look up to the task. But again, I think Mike the Mailman could probably field a snap and hand it to a running back and beat Penn State.
I could do that. You're right.
You'd have a leather helmet on, don't you think?
Right. Yeah. A while ago, you're right.
The S sweater and some pantaloons for you, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, but the talent on Penn State team compared to the talent on Minnesota team, I'm sorry, there's no way they can lose this game. There's no way.
When has it ever mattered in the Franklin era?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. There's always you lose the games you're supposed to lose, +1 you're supposed to win. That's kind of the formula.
Kevin, you've always said that.
And lately, not 1 + 1 you're supposed to win. So I guess if you count Purdue, but
no, I'm saying you lose one of the ones you're supposed to win, and then you lose all the ones you're supposed to lose. So Ohio State, Michigan, you lose those.
Right.
And then, every year there's an Illinois or a Michigan State or a Northwestern.
And why we tolerated this guy for so long and why we paid him $75 million is we would also win one we were supposed to lose for a while, for like 3 years. And then we stopped doing that.
I mean, that's a conversation for another day.
Anyway, look, Minnesota's not that good. They were ranked for a period of time. They're no longer ranked, 2 losses in a row. Their quarterback's going to be out again. He's not that good, but certainly better than their backup, whose name I can't pronounce. I think it's Greek. But what worries me is Minnesota's a little bit dinky, like sort of Michigan. Go for the high percentage plays on every single down. They have one of the best third down conversion percentages in college football. It's like 2/3 of third down they're converting, which Penn State's historically terrible at defending. Our safeties were like 15 yards off the ball on 3rd and 4 for most of the day last Saturday. So I have no reason to think that'll be different.
But if we have a whiteout, I mean, isn't the crowd going to be in this game more? With a whiteout? Isn't the whiteout crowd a lot better than most crowds? I don't know.
I am going to be very curious to see what the vibe is like in Beaver Stadium and see whether everybody can, after a week, be back up off the mat and ready to bring the energy for a team that, doesn't get the juices flowing quite like Ohio State does. That's one of the risks you run, I guess, if you have kind of an off-brand opponent for your whiteout.
Another thing is I'm so tired of these noon games. So tired of the noon games. So I think people will be up. People are finally excited to have a normal fall day of tailgating.
That's fair.
It's even worse when you're in person. This Fox Sports stuff, I mean, they're just like game terrorists, right? Like 3-minute timeouts every
you're right.
drive. I mean, it's horrible. It's better on TV, horrible in person, and they make you have their best games at noon. Finally, we're done with that.
Finally.
For a week.
Yeah. Oh, well. You got to do what happens. You got to do it. They call the shots anymore.
You got to make do what happens.
Yeah, they call the shots.
Folks, if the team's listening, you got to make do what happens.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I've said that all my life.
I'm sorry, Mike. I
have.
We're at that part of the season.
This is what I'm just going to say. We're at this part of the season. Already. After another 5-0 start.
That's right.
God, it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating.
Yeah.
The number of times, I think it's 5 out of 8 complete seasons we have followed, under James Franklin, we followed our first loss with a second. I mean, that's frustrating and foreboding as well.
Yeah.
Because Minnesota, we saw what we did to them the last time Fleck and Franklin matched up. There's a lot to be concerned with. So we're going to do Mike's trends and our picks for the game. Coming up on the other side of the break, we'll try to muster some more enthusiasm. We'll be right back.
Taking a shot up in the tailgate lot with a stadium view.
Hi everybody, Mike the Mailman with Week 8 of Trends to Treasure for the weekend of October 29th. For our first pick this week, we have Michigan State at Michigan. Michigan State is 12-2 in the last 14 games and 6-1 in the last 7 away games. So the play here is the Michigan State Spartans. As we move on to pick 2, we're staying in the Big Ten. We have the Ohio State Buckeyes at the Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State is 5-1 in the last 6 games and 4-1 in the last 5 home games. Pick here is the Nittany Lions at Penn State. For pick 3, we have the TCU Horned Frogs versus the West Virginia Mountaineers. West Virginia is 6-0 the last 6 games and 4-0 in the last 4 home games. So the play here, the West Virginia Mountaineers. So for our bonus pick, we have the Houston Texans hosting the Tennessee Titans. Houston is 7-1 in the last 8 home games, so take Houston plus the points. That's it for Week 8. I'm Mike the Mailman. We'll see you next week with another edition of Trends to Treasure. Don't forget, bet with your head and not with your heart. Go get 'em.
Well, it's our random number generator segment, folks, where we predict the score of the game, but it's really just randomly generated numbers. These score predictions mean nothing.
That's it.
all week I was thinking last week, I'm like, well, I don't like Penn State to win the game. I think it's going to be a double-digit loss. But I still, I just made up the numbers on the spot, and I predicted by 7. So they mean nothing. They mean less than nothing.
Yes. They mean something to some people whose children's college tuition is at stake.
Well, let me tell you, if you were betting your pocket change, let alone substantial sums of money, not on Mike's trends, but on our score predictions in this segment, you need to have your head examined.
That's true. You get what you get.
Yeah, absolutely. That's social Darwinism, my friend. I want to go back, Kev, to something you said in the last segment about Mo Ibrahim and Blake Corum and what Michigan's run offense, which is not creative, right? It's everything they did to us last week was on tape through the first 5 weeks of the season, and hell, like practically the totality of Jim Harbaugh's tenure. So it's not like they threw some creative offense at us. They just basically used old school Penn State football.
Yeah.
And that's what Minnesota does as well.
Yeah. Well, that was another post-game comment. James said, I think that their defensive line has about 30 pounds on average against our offensive line. And he made the comment about how everyone thinks Aaron Donald, but they're not. It was rough. It was messy. But yeah, I mean, Corum could do whatever he wanted. I mean, it was to the point where, like, you got an incomplete pass, you're like, oh my gosh, they're off schedule. But it doesn't matter because they're going to average 7-8 yards a carry. I mean, I've not seen holes that big since some of these Ohio State games of the last decade. But yeah, it wasn't even a competition. Then when we would get in the backfield, we'd take the worst possible angles, miss a tackle. I mean, I have not seen defense play like that in a long time.
It was a bad combination. We're still talking about it. It was a bad combination of unfavorable matchups and poor execution. But again, it relates to this week because we're going to see the same kind of offense. That Kirk Chiraka Minnesota offense is like a Novocaine drip. They just want to slowly grind you down into dust and take the game clock with it, which again is concerning if you can't then turn around and do one of two things: match them blow for blow in terms of moving the sticks, or have a quick strike offense. And we haven't looked like either one of those over the last 4 weeks now. So again, I don't want to miss your pick, especially with only 3 of us here. So I'm going to let you go first.
Well, Chris, fortunately, Penn State during the Franklin era has been great at making adjustments and game planning throughout the week, changing with the circumstances. So I have no doubt we'll be fine against Minnesota.
I'm sorry. If you don't like it, win a couple of these games. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. You cash in those checks, and you turn in a performance like you got last week. This is what people are going to say. Sorry. Don't be bad at your job.
We've got Tyler Elson on this side, but we got Jair Brown on that side. So I'm going to put Jair towards the camera because at least he can play football. So, look, I still like Penn State to win. I don't want to. Bettors cannot overreact to what happened the week before, as Mike well knows. The line opened at 5. The money poured in Minnesota. It's down to 4. I think it's going to stay around 4. I'm going to say Penn State 34, Minnesota 24. I really, really like the over. The total is 45 points. I think that's extremely, extremely low. I think both teams are going to be able to score. Hopefully Penn State can run the ball. I mean, that's the deciding factor here. But I do like Penn State again. I don't think Minnesota's that good. It is Minnesota at the end of the day. It is at home. I don't know. I mean, look, the defense is exposed, but with Minnesota's backup quarterback, how can you pick them?
That's the X factor for me.
Yeah,
I think the defense is going to be fired up more than any group on the field. I think Penn State's defense is going to be so fired up because of what happened last week. I really think I think Manny Diaz is going to get them really up there. I think
they were supposed to be fired up for a chance to play a top 5 team on the road coming off their bye week. We haven't even really talked too much about James's abysmal record coming off of the bye, which is just mind-boggling.
But I like Penn. I think Penn State will win by 19 or 20. I think it's an easy game.
Over total?
I like the over.
All right.
I mean,
the quarterback situation for Minnesota is a big issue for me.
Yeah.
If Tanner Morgan's there, I think it's a different game.
Yeah.
PJ Fleck and Kirk Chiraka, former current Minnesota offensive coordinator, former Penn State offensive coordinator, they know how to beat this team. Yeah. We watched them do it. We watched Minnesota methodically take apart a better Penn State football team in 2019 on the road. If Tanner Morgan were a go to play at full strength, which irrespective of what happens there, I don't think it's going to be the case, I would have a tough time picking Penn State. But because of that difference, I think that allows our defense to be a little bit more aggressive and more effective. So I am going to take the Nittany Lions. I'm going to take them to win 28-20. And again, random number generator. I don't feel great about it.
3 overs. That's the play.
Am I wrong to feel this tenuous about picking Penn State in the whiteout against Minnesota?
No, I mean, look, they were terrible.
I don't feel great about it.
They were terrible last week. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But again, it is true. This is how the gamblers get you. This is how the books get you. Penn State is what it is. Like this is the actual what James Franklin said that made no sense, but also makes a lot of sense. He's like, we're 5-1. That's what we are. Which is the first time you're ever going to say we're not 0-1 or 1-0. So that was telling. It was a good team for the first 5 years. At points, a great team. They had a bad week. They had a bad matchup. They were outcoached, outplayed, outmanned. Minnesota's not Michigan. Can't overreact to the worst game in a couple of seasons.
That's the key. Don't overreact. Come back. Join us next week. We are
still firing.